That brings us actually to the first thing I want to discuss in terms of the royal fallout from this succession, which is just another reminder that the United Kingdom really is kind of like a little bit of a woke dystopia, right? They're just a few steps ahead of us in all the kind of crazy madness. And to me, they always show us like what our society could become if we didn't have a First Amendment, if we didn't have free speech, because they just do some crazy, crazy stuff over there. So let me read you some reporting from Newsweek. A Prince Andrew heckler was charged with a crime. A man was arrested for heckling Prince Andrew as he walked behind the coffin of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, in Scotland, and he has been charged. In a statement, the police of Scotland said the 22-year-old was charged with breach of the peace following the incident, which occurred as the Queen's cortege passed through Edinburgh's Royal Mile on Monday. The suspect is alleged to have yelled, "Andrew, you're a sick old man," at the prince in an apparent reference to the allegations surrounding the royal and his relationship with child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now, look, I'm not somebody who would advocate for going to a funeral procession and heckling. But that's free speech, man. Free speech includes the right to be rude, to call people out, to insult them in public. And they literally arrested this dude for it. That's messed up.
That's really crazy, especially because it's not like he's just disturbing the peace at a private citizen's funeral. Like, these are political entities. This is a government official. Like, I think that makes it even more egregious when you're going after free speech in that context, because that's, the government, of course, and politicians will always want to silence speech and dissent. And like, that is hugely problematic, but they are really bad on free speech over there. I don't know if most Americans understand just how much worse they are, because so often, like, we get told, all Western nations kind of have these values. Like, no, they don't, like, at all. They actually frequently have a lot of issues like this around the press and around free speech. And it's very concerning because we are so close to them. It really could move that way. Yeah.
But if you don't have a First Amendment, you just erode these things over time. Right? Because, for example, the royal family is very popular in the UK. So if you polled people, you might get a majority that say that speech should be a crime. I mean, that's the thing. That's why you need free speech and other things protected by your Bill of Rights. So not everything is just eroded by the will of the masses. I mean, on something like this, it gets worse too. Police Scotland arrested, this is also from Newsweek, one other woman on Sunday on suspicion of breaching the peace after allegedly holding a imperialism, abolish monarchy sign during an accession proclamation for the king outside St. Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh. Now, listen, they are literally speaking out about the system of government in public places against public officials. This is free speech 101, whether you agree with them or not. And yet these people are getting rounded up by the cops in a supposedly free Western nation. This is just wild to me.
That is not it. But I think you would be surprised to find that a lot of Brits are okay with this kind of thing because they've been conditioned to it, first and foremost. And then secondarily, because the free speech is so bad over there, they don't get a lot of information. Like, one thing that I think is fascinating. Read any gossip blog, read any, of the tea online, and everybody agrees Prince William has lots of affairs on Kate, right? It's like this open kind of secret that people always talk about. The British tabloids never mention it. It's scrubbed. They won't reference it. They won't talk about it because basically the royal family will come after them and sue them and like all kinds of things. And so that's just one example of many. If they're covering up that kind of thing, imagine the other stuff they're covering up and not allowing the press to tell the people. And so their citizens are really uninformed, obviously, about many of the things the monarchy is doing. And other politicians likely as well. And so that's always been the real danger with free speech. It's not just that you lose your liberty and can be arrested for things. It's that you cannot actually have a representative government or a democracy or a free system when the people can't get the information they need to adequately participate in it and to hold elected leaders accountable. And that's what really goes away when you don't have a First Amendment.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, like we've literally had Supreme Court cases here in the US where we litigate this issue and they say that you have the right to protest outside the funerals of dead soldiers and yell terrible things about them. And, like all of these examples, you might find them horrifying or whatever. Somebody else out there finds your free speech horrifying. And if you want to have it, you got to have it for all. I just don't. And then they end up in this society where censorship is just normalized in an otherwise free-ish and Western advanced country with very similar people and values to us. Yet this idea of arresting people for saying the wrong things is just normal there. I don't get it. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they could possibly justify this. I mean, it's one thing to have a monarchy and to say, it's just ceremonial. It's not really a political, thing. It's kind of just a national heritage and culture thing. Okay. But then also we arrest you if you criticize them in public. Okay, so it is, though. This clearly is some kind of authoritarian thing, at least in the enforcement of these laws to crack down on dissent from the monarchy. And I think that's messed up. People should be free to speak out against it as much as they want. And if you disagree, debate them, but don't charge them with breaching the peace because they shouted out their opinion in a public setting. And also none of the things they're saying are even that crazy or seriously.
Right. Like compare that to like the Westboro Baptist people and what they do at funerals, right? Like not even close. But I think that is an important reminder. Like when you have freedoms, some people will use them in ways that you find disgusting and that you abhor and that you should debate and speak out against and push back on, right? Like I can't stand the Westboro Baptists. They're Looney Tunes. And I think that they should be shouted down in an open discourse kind of setting. But I also think you have to defend freedom to these extents, right? You have to fight on these grounds over here. You can't really have a tepid approach to civil liberties. It has to be an all or nothing kind of way of looking at things, which is why I think the ACLU got it right for so many years. You don't typically have to litigate on behalf of favorable people that society likes to protect their liberties, right? It's usually the really gross people, the people who have detestable views, the people who we hate, but we have to defend on these grounds, because if you do not start here, that's the door that opens it up to come after people down the road that you do like and who are doing things that are peaceful, and then that's who most of society is, right? So you have to fight it over here. I think that's a tough pill for some people to swallow. I don't have a hard time accepting that, but I think a lot of people really struggle with that mentality. Same thing we see in like criminal cases. You and I care so much about due process. We care so much about ensuring that people who've done really bad things in society still get their constitutional rights and still get a fair trial and still get a jury. Like these, you have to uphold those things for the worst people in society to ensure all of society is protected.